Hi friends, today I will explain about nulls in SQL. So nulls are very important in database, right? So if you don't handle nulls properly, then your data may go wrong, your results, your analysis may go wrong. So it's very important to understand the concept of null and how to handle nulls. Okay, so in this session I will explain about first of all what is a null. So, some facts about nulls and how we can handle nulls. Okay. So, first of all, what is a null in SQL? So, a column with null value means that column has no value. Suppose we have a table and we have many columns, and if any column is holding null values, that means there is no value for that column in that table. So, null means no value. A null value is neither zero nor a blank space. So don't confuse, null is not like a zero. Suppose if you are declaring the fields or columns as integers, then a null doesn't mean it is zero. Okay? And if it is a string field, so a null doesn't mean it's a blank space. A null means it doesn't have any value, and length of a null value is null, where length of a blank value is 0. So by using this you can identify it's a null or blank space. So length of a null value, so we have a function called length, right? So whenever you apply length on the null value, it will give null only, it will not throw any result. But if you calculate the length of a blank value, it will show as 0. I will show you this practically. And we can define nullability of a column in the table definition, and we call that as a not null constraint. So where we can define a table will allow nulls, a table will not allow nulls. So that part of definition where we have to put, so we can define that in the table definition, table ddl. So we have to just mention, if we want to define any column as a not nullable column, then we have to, after the column name where data type, so we have to set it as not null, and we call that as not null constraint. And if we define any columns as not nullable, then it will not accept nulls. Okay. So suppose we have a table and there are many fields in that table, and if we define any column as not nullable, then you cannot insert null values into that field. And if you try to load nulls into that, definitely the query will fail. Okay. Null never matches with another null, so this is also important. So you can think like null equals to null. No, that condition is always false. Null never matches with another null. I'll show you this in the practical. Okay. And we should be very careful with nulls. So as I told, there are many things like null never matches null. Okay. And we may confuse with it's a null or blank space. There are many issues. Okay. We'll discuss about them and how to resolve them also, we'll see. Okay. First of all, let's see a table with some null values. Okay, so I have an employee table and I have six records in this. So with the columns like employee ID, first name, last name, age, salary, location, and department ID. And if you see here, there are some null values. Suppose if you see, for the third record, last name is null. For the second record, location is null. But do you know definitely this is a null or a blank space? No. So just by looking at the database, you cannot know like it's a null or it's a blank space. Okay. And for the fourth record, the salary is null. And for the fifth record, the location is null. Okay. So this is just a sample table. So by looking at this table, okay, so I have some requirements or scenarios. Can you derive full name of employees from this table? So full name is nothing but the combination of or concatenation of first name and last name. And can you calculate average salary of employees from this table? And can you find a list of employees where location information is not available? And finally, can you join a table with another table where the join keys have nulls? Okay. So we'll go through all these scenarios. What will happen if we have nulls in the table like this? So first of all, we have to set up some data for if we want to go through these scenarios or if you want to execute some queries. First of all, we have to set up some data, right? So this is my table. So whatever I just shown in the above diagram, this is the same table, and I'm inserting the same data here into this. Okay. So let's see practically. So how can you practice SQL very easily? So just to go to Google, type online SQL compiler. So you will get so many options, like so many SQL compilers where you can create tables, insert data, and execute queries. Okay, so I'm just going with the top one. Okay, so here if you see they are giving some three tables for our practice. If you want to practice, we can practice with this set of tables as well. Okay, but I want to create this table. Okay, and I want to insert this data as well. So first create the table. So if you see on the left window, left pane, the table has been created. Okay, and let's insert some data as well. So let's go through the definition first. So here I have created the employee table, right? And if you see how where I am mentioning the null or not null constraints. So if you see employee ID is my primary key column. Okay, that's why I am defining it as a not null. Okay, employee anyway, primary key will not allow nulls, and I am defining not null constraint on this column. And first name also I am defining as not null, but second name, last name I am not defining as not null, so it may contain nulls, but first name and employee ID should not null. Okay, so age null, so I am specifically mentioning like null. So if you don't mention null also, it's okay. Suppose for the next column for salary double, I am not mentioning null or not null, so by default they will allow nulls. Okay, if you want to put not null constraint, then only you have to specifically mention like this. If you mention a null like this, or if you just ignore mentioning null, both are same. Okay, so again department ID I am saying as not null. So this way we can define not null constraint on the table. And so if you see, I am trying to insert some six records into this table, and if you see at the end, okay, so for the sixth record I am trying to um, load null value into the not null column. Department ID is not null, but I am trying to load some null value. Okay, let's see what will happen. So not null constraint failed, employee department ID. So I told you, right. So we are defining not null constraint on the department ID, and if we try to load nulls into those not null columns, the query will fail. Now the query got failed and data was not inserted. So let's put some value here, some department name 102. Okay, now we execute. Okay, so data was inserted into the table. So if you want, you can just run select query on this. So you can see the data. Now you tell me, so there are so many records here, right? So do you know these are perfectly nulls, which is null or which is a blank space? Do you know? No. So just look at my data insert statement. Okay, this is my insert statement. So here I am putting a blank value for location. Okay. So here I am putting one space. This is a blank value. This is a space. I am putting a single space here. And if you see for other records, for last name of third record, I am putting null. For salary of fourth record, I am putting null. For age of sixth record I'm putting null. So at some places I'm directly inserting null. At some places I have inserted a blank space or empty single space. Okay, this is just for our analysis in the next queries. Okay, now we have inserted the data. Now how to query the records with null values. Okay, suppose I want to get all the records from the table where some particular column is null. So how you can query, how you can form your select query? So by using is null column, you can easily get those records, like select star from this employee table where last name is null. So this query will display all the records where last name is null. So if you run like this, select star from employee where salary is null, select star from employee where location is null. Like this, you can frame the statements. So let's execute one by one. Just run the query. All the results will come here. Okay. So for the first statement, select star from employee where last name is null. So for this record, third record, first name is Divya but last name is null. So it is displaying. And the second query is select star from employee where salary is null. So here for the fourth record for Rama Devi, the salary is null. That's why it is showing up this record. But for the third query, it is not showing any results. But if you just look at the table, okay, so when you just look at the table, so here for two records, location information is not available, but we are not sure it is null or not null, right? So let me show you. Select star from EMP. So whenever we run the query, select star from employee where location is null, so it is not giving any records. But if you see here, for two records, location is not available. So we may think like this is a null, but we have some values there because we have inserted a blank here and one empty space here, one space here. Okay, that's why the query is not fetching any results. But how can you handle this scenario? So location information is not available, but when you are selecting where location is null, it is not displaying any results. So our query is not correct. So I have a scenario like select list of the records where location information is not available. So whenever you form your query like this, it's not correct, right? Select star from employee where location is not null. So we'll see later how we can handle this. Okay, but I hope you are understanding difference between a blank, a empty space, or a null. Okay, I'll come to this later. So second thing is length of a null. Okay, so what is the length of a null value? It is very important. So length of a null value is null. So whenever you try to execute the function length function on a null value, so it will say like it will give the result like null only. Okay, where length of a blank value is 0, but length of a blank value, suppose which is the blank value, here this is a blank value, this is not a space, this is not a character, so there is nothing, this is not a null, but this is just a blank, so length of this value will come as 0. Okay, suppose if you want to know, let's run these queries. I'm selecting, I'm running three queries here. Okay. First one is select location, length of location from employee. So this is my first query. So if you see here, the length of Hyderabad is 9, the length of Bangalore is 9. But if you see here, it's not a null value, it's a blank value. That's why the length is coming as a 0, and here we have a space, that's why the length is coming as 1. Okay, so length of a blank is 0, length of empty one space is 1. Okay, and I have other queries as well. Select first name, last name, length of last name from employee. So this is my second query. Okay, so length of last name. So this is my first name Anitha Rao. Length of last name is just Rao, 3 characters. For Kumar, it's 5 characters. But for the third record, second name is not available. Last name is not available. So length of last name, it is showing as null only. It's not a 0. It's not 1. So length of a null is null only. I hope you are understanding. Okay, here in the above case length of a blank space is 0, but here length of a null is null only. So you can check for this record, length of salary. I am calculating, select first name, last name, and the length of salary. So length of salary is null, that's why it is showing as null. Okay, I hope you are understanding. So let's be clear. So length of a null is null, length of a blank is 0. Okay, so I hope you are clear. This will help in many places. So while deciding it's a null or blank space, this will really help. Okay, so the third thing is concatenation with nulls. So this is also important. We cannot concatenate strings and nulls. If we do, entire results will become null. So if you try to concatenate a string with null, entire result will become null. So we cannot concatenate any strings with null values. Suppose I have a scenario, like derive the full name of the employees. That means it's a concatenation of first name and last name. So what is the concatenation symbol? It's a double pipe symbol. So let's execute these queries. Okay. Okay. So in the first query, what I am running, select first name, last name, and concatenation of first name, comma last name as full name. Okay. So if you see, so for first name it is Anitha, last name is Rao, and full name is Anitha Rao. Vinay Kumar, Vinay Kumar. So if you see here, the first name is Divya, but last name is not available. Last name is not available. So when I try to concatenate this Divya string with a null value, so entire result is becoming null. So by this you can understand easily. So we cannot concatenate strings with null values. Okay. So suppose if you want to execute these two queries, you will understand. Just execute these two queries, you will understand. So here I am selecting, select ram. Okay, I am concatenating two things. One is a string ram and another is null. So when I am trying to do this, so entire result is becoming null. So in the first case you can see it is not showing anything, it is showing nulls. But for the second query result, select ram. Okay, and here I am concatenating a blank, not a null. So now see the result. So we are able to concatenate. So just try to understand, we cannot concatenate strings and nulls. But if I want to derive the full name here, so how we can handle this? For that, so we use some function like if null function, coalesce function. There are some functions, predefined functions available in SQL. So we can use them for handling nulls. Suppose in the above scenario, how to handle nulls in the above case? So the answer is with if null. We can handle this scenario. So for last name is not available, then it should show first name as the full name, right? So but here in our last query it is coming as null only. So in that case, how we can handle? Okay. So let's see the queries. So here what I am doing, select first name, last name, first name concatenated. So here I am using if null function. What I am saying, if null of last name, then so if null syntax is if null of two things here. So the column where we are checking for nulls, and so if it is a null, what should return? Okay. So what this will return, if the last name is not null, then it will result as last name. If the last name is null, then it will just return just a blank. So now if you try to execute this query, it is giving for Divya what it is saying. So second last name is null, so it is returning a blank, and we are concatenating first name with blank. So the result will not become null. That's why it is showing as Divya. So we can handle these scenarios like this. Whenever if I want to concatenate some strings with null values, first of all I have to handle those null values and then concatenate so that the result will come correctly. Okay. So here I have another query. Let me run this. So suppose whenever my last name is not available, I want to return as not applicable. Okay. So select first name and if null of last name comma not applicable. That means whenever last name is not available, last name is not null, then it will throw not available. The last name is not available. Here you can see for Divya, the last name is not available. Like this, we can use this if null function. Okay. I hope you are understanding, and this is very important. Okay, so how aggregate functions work with nulls. Okay, and let's see some of the points with aggregate functions. Okay, so null is neither maximum nor minimum. Okay, suppose I have a table, suppose a table with the salaries. So whenever and salary contains nulls as well. So whenever I execute select max of salary from employee, so it will not count the null values. Okay, and even if, when I run this query select minimum salary, this also will not count nulls. Okay, so but that is wrong, right? So if it is not counting the null values, it's not good. So how to handle? So what I am doing here, select minimum of. Okay, so if null of salary comma 0. So what this will do, whenever salary is not whenever salary is null, then it will return 0 as the salary. Then we can calculate this max or minimum functions. Let's run these queries. Okay, so select max of salary from the employee, select minimum salary from the employee, and minimum should be, if it is not salary is not available, definitely it should show as 0, right? But because of null values it is not showing 0, it is showing some other result. Okay, so let's execute. So the maximum salary is 70,000 from this table. It is saying, so let's see the table. So 70,000 is correct. Minimum is whenever null is available, but it is saying minimum salary is 50,000 because the count or this minimum function is not including or counting the nulls. So how to handle that? That's why I'm writing a query like this. Whenever the salary is not available, make it as 0. Then try to calculate this minimum function. Okay. So it will now show as 0, the minimum salary, because we are converting this null salary as 0. So minimum will then the minimum salary will become 0, right? Okay, I hope this is clear. Now let's come to the next thing. So count function will not consider null values like minimum and maximum. Count function also will not consider null values. Suppose let's execute these queries. Select count of star from employee. So how many records are there in that employee table? 6. Okay, select count of employee id. I am just counting the employee ids. Again it is 6. But whenever you try to select count of last name from employee, let's see. Okay, see, first thing, select the count of star from employee is returning 6, which is correct. Select count of employee id from employee 6. But when you try to count run the count of last name, it is showing only 5 because it is not including the nulls. Even the same, select star count of salary from employee, it is 5. But if you see count of location, even though we can see here they are not nulls, but it is showing as nulls here, but it has some blank value and one space. That's why it is counting those blank values and spaces. That's why it is returning the result as 6. Okay, so some of the functions, aggregate functions like count. Okay, minimum, maximum, and average, they will not consider nulls. They will not include nulls while calculating the result. The same we'll see. So aggregate functions with the nulls. So what will happen when we are calculating some functions like average, mean? So they also will not consider nulls. Suppose, let's see, let's run this queries. Okay, first of all, let's see what is the average salary from this table. Okay, so we have like 6 7 13 13 5 18 18 6.5 24.5 24.5 plus 5.5 30. 30 into 10,000, 3 lakhs. So the total salary is 3 lakhs here. And how many records are there? 6 records. So 3 lakh by 6, 50,000 is the average salary, right? But let's calculate the same. 50,000 is the average salary. It should return. Okay. So select average salary from the table. It is not returning 50, it is returning 60, because it is not counting the nulls. It is not counting the nulls. Okay, so it will just sum up the salaries, and it will just say 5. It will consider only 5 records are there in this table because it has null. So 30 lakh by 5, it is 60,000 average salary. So this is wrong, right? So whenever we want to calculate the average salary, we have to include all the records from the table. Okay, so how to handle in this scenario? It is simple again. Select average of, if null of salary, then make it as 0. Okay, if salary is null, then make it as 0. Then then calculate the average. So let's see. So if you do like this, what is the value it is coming now? 50,000, right? Average, if null of salary comma 0 is 50,000. It is coming as correct. So any integer having nulls, and if you want to handle those nulls, you can handle by using like this. If null of that integer column, then return as 0. Okay, like this we can handle. So the same if null we can write as a case function like this. Case, when salary is null, then 0, else salary. That means when salary is null, return 0. Otherwise, if it is not null, then return salary itself. So like this also you can write this if null function by using the case statement. So if you do like that also, the average salary is 50,000. Okay, I hope you are understanding. These are very important, guys. In real time, while doing some data analysis or calculating some values, these are very important. Okay. Now let's see how to handle blank spaces. Okay. So come back to our old example. Find a list of employees whose location information is not available. Now I want to find all the list of employees, or I want to print all the records where location information is not available. So when we look at our table, so location information is not available for two records here. So I want to just fetch only those two records. Okay, so let's write the queries. So first query what I am writing, select star from employee where location is null. So when I run that query, select star from employee. Okay. So select star from employee where location is null. So if you see, okay, you may get confused. So let's run only this query. Okay. Select star from employee where location is null. So even though location is not available for two records here, it is not returning them because actually they are not nulls, right? They have blank space and one space. So now let's run the second query. Select star from employee, how we can handle nulls in this situation. Select star from employee where location is null or location equals to blank. Okay. So let's run this query. Still it is returning only one row because we have blank in only one row. Other columns we don't have blank, so we have some spaces. So this is also wrong result because in this table location information is not available for two records, but it is returning only one record. So now how to handle this? Okay, so some records may have location as blank. Some records have location as one space. Some records may have two spaces. Some records may have three spaces. But we cannot put all these conditions, right? Our location equals to blank. Our location equals to one space. Our location equals to two spaces. Like that, it's difficult to put those many conditions. So how to handle this? So we have a function called trim. Okay, so what this trim will do, so if there are any spaces, they will trim those spaces and it will make as a blank. So even though there are one space, two space, whatever, how many spaces, what this will do, it will simply trim all the spaces and make that value as a blank. Now if you do like this, just run the query. Now it is giving the correct result. For two records, location information is not available, and I am able to fetch those two records. So, how to handle the spaces here? Blank spaces or empty spaces. So, we have to write a condition like this: location is null, or trim of location equals to a blank. Okay. So, this is a space. This is a blank. There is nothing here. Okay. So, this is like a place, a space. Okay, so like this you can handle blanks and spaces. Okay, and the last one. So I told you, right, null never matches with another null. Okay, so two nulls are not same. Okay, suppose if you want to know, let's execute this query, you will get to know what I am saying here. Select case when null equals to null, then true, else false. So if this condition is true, then print as true. If this condition is false, then false. So by looking at these two are same, null is null. But just when you execute this, so this is returning false. That means a null is never null. Okay, so let me write like this. Select when 1 equals to 1. Then so it is returning true. 1 is always 1 or Ram equals to Ram. So here also it is true because 1 equals to 1, Ram equals to Ram. But a null never matches with another null. So null is not equals to another null. So this is very important, guys. Just remember this point. Because while joining, while so let's go with the next example, you will get to know. Okay, so I have two tables like this. Okay, so I want to join these two tables. I have tables like table A with one column id, and I have values like this 1 2 3 null. By from table B I have only one column with id and I have values like this 1 2 4. Now if I perform inner join on these two tables, definitely many people will confuse, like one matches with one, two matches with two, null matches with null. So this will return three records, but that is wrong. Null never matches null. Okay, suppose if you want to achieve this, so let's okay. So I'm creating a table A with only one column ID integer, and I'm inserting into table A values 1, 2, 3, and null. The same I'm creating another table B with only one column ID integer, and I'm inserting values 1, 2, 4, and null. Okay, and I'm writing a query. Select a dot star from this table A. Okay, and I'm giving alias name as A. Join table B, and I'm giving alias name as B. Okay, on A dot id equals to B dot id. So my key column is id and my key column has null values. So how, what will be the result of this? So people who doesn't have some knowledge on nulls or giants, they will think like, so one matches with one, two matches with two, three doesn't match with four, but null matches with null. So total there are three matches. So this query will return three records, but it's wrong. Null never matches with another null. Okay, it's a condition, it's a normal where condition, or it's a giant key condition. Wherever a null never matches with another null. Suppose I'm creating tables and I'm inserting data. So here you can see table A with only one column ID integer, table B with only one column ID integer. Okay, now I am just running this. So it is displaying matching records as 1, 2. It is not displaying the third record, null, because null is not matching with another null. Okay. So while performing giants where we may have nulls in the giant fields, so we should be very careful. Okay. And we always have to remember this point: null never matches with another null. Okay. So this is about null. Okay, I hope this is helpful. Many of almost every one of you know these things, but if you don't know, I hope this is helpful for you. And these are some facts about nulls, and this is how we have to handle nulls. Thank you.